How many episodes can we go in this Nioh LP without making a fucking Kung Pao reference? Too late.
That's a lot of references!
So, we're finally getting off this fucking part of Japan and figuring out where Kelly is going. We're actually going to Osaka. There's something to say about how this game handles cutscenes, because the new Hitman came out, and for a modern game that's a sequel that's makes Square Enix a lot of money, they put like fucking title card cutscenes in there, and that's really lame in my opinion. Meanwhile, we have Tecmo-Koei here with Nioh producing some pretty good cutscenes actually, but also has the little paper doll things.
To be honest, a lot of Japanese developers, at least more of the modern ones, they don't really seem to put as much into the video package that at least shows these cinematic moments like this. The ones that do amazing work, but they're fewer and far between. Like American ones, like they constantly have to make it look as movie-like as possible, I guess.
Yeah.
But some of the Japanese games still kind of play some of the tropes of classic games of the past, which is both good and bad, I think, depending on the game.
So, here's our escalation of the threat. Now we gotta figure out how to deal with the umebozu.
Japanese Kraken.
Yes and no. It's not a squid so much as just a slime. But that's blocking our way to Osaka.
Can't you just go around it?
No, because it actively hunts us.
Why is it so fast? It's a ooze.
It is a.
I know the movement speed of oozes.
It is a water spirit that has possessed the entirety of this this strait. Is that what they're called? So basically, the entire like area we need to sail to is the umebozu's body.
We have to find a shipwright. Hopefully a cyborg.
Yeah, look, I know a guy. Unfortunately, you may have to like completely ditch your ship and not fix it.
And the guy poses with a Speedo on. It's pretty uncomfortable.
I've always liked these scenes in Japanese media. I don't know why. I always think like this kind of like staircase encounter is a real good mood setter.
It's very Western.
Yeah, that's probably why.
A lot of samurai movies, especially the fact Kira Kurosawa based a lot of his film work, including angles he used on westerns.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
I believe the director was Henry Ford, was the one he based off a lot.
That is a name that is very familiar to me, and I don't know why.
I mean, he's famous.
Yeah, like, I probably heard of him in passing. And that's kind of how you know people knew what they wanted to write into. Because when you write about someone that is unconsciously famous, you're kind of going all in on the historical aspect.
I always like the look on your main character's face, because it always screams to me, I don't understand any of you.
That's kind of exactly it. My original intent for LPing this was the idea that he didn't actually understand everybody, and that's why everybody just says, "What?" And it kind of is emphasized there with that really bad breakpoint. I'll have to fix that in editing.
This guy dresses pretty drably.
Yeah,
sure, he'll be fun.
I think he's like a lesser lord or probably just like a servant of some kind. 'Cause, yeah. We never left the shame cave.
You went onto a ship into another shame cave.
I thought on the boat we would escape the caves, but now we're back, and here's our new main character. Don't recognize him? It's Munashige.
Welcome back, Mugoshige.
I had the option to either do that or Fuku, but Fuku costs a lot of PvP points, so I went with the cheaper option. Plus, it kind of makes sense that Muneshige would be here because we just last met him.
I love the idea of you just met me, now follow me on my adventures.
Behold, Muneshige deals with terrible OSHA standards in mining. So here's the thing you could do if you ever find yourself low on potions. You could do a thing called Make Offering at a shrine, and generally, like, 95% of your stuff is going to be shit. You could do a lot of things with all that shit that you're not going to use. You can disassemble it at the blacksmith to make good stuff. You can, burn it to... You can, like, consume those to reinforce other gear. Or you could offer it to a shrine to where you'll get various rewards, ranging from antidotes, soul gems, and more importantly, restockable medicine. Because I think
also allow me to correct myself. It's John Ford, not Henry Ford.
Ah, yeah. I was thinking there Henry Ford, like the car maker.
I don't understand you.
So this
Stop talking to me.
So this is gonna sound really fucking weird because I'm gonna say this and you're gonna probably groan at the idea. But for a poison level where there's poison damage fields, I actually really like what they do with this level. Because you have,
I'm not gonna go sigh, but it's more like explain how.
like, it's probably just me because I'm a crazy person that likes really weird mechanics, but there are two central mechanics in this game. You have the thing making the poison. There is a thing in the poison that makes it, and you have to get rid of it. Now, you could do the dumb guy thing and just brute force it, jump in, kill it, and then take an antidote to cure yourself. But there's another system in this game called the, I believe it's called the rice grain air vacuum? The long and short of it is, this thing sucks up the poison for a set time. Time enough for you to come in and kill that.
What's that?
That little pod with the lights in there, that is the poison emitter. What the developers want you to do is turn on the fan and break the rock. If you know what... Go ahead.
I'm assuming various later ones will be more difficult to reach.
Oddly enough, no. Well, first-time players, yeah, because you got to figure out where the rock is. But when you know where it is, it's actually not hard to get rid of the rocks. Like, the hardest one involves you with, like, dealing with two rocks across, like, separate parts of the room. And I feel like even though I can't do it, a person that really knows what they're doing in this game can one-cycle that room specifically. Now, if you're also wondering why I don't take the short bridge across the area, that bridge breaks. It's meant to be a trap to dunk you in the poison and cause you to use an antidote. It's really obvious, actually.
As you do.
Mm-hmm. The grain fan, that's it.
But here's my thing about that. How do they explain that in-game? Like, what is its function? Is it designed to suck out poison when other people use it?
Actually, no. This is something that is done in mining in general. But when you make a mine, you typically have to have a 2 points of opening to the outside world to have an airflow. Otherwise, you have carbon dioxide buildup, and you can suffocate because you're not getting any oxygen. In this instance, they probably haven't established the second opening yet, so they use these grain fans to provide a flow of air so people can have oxygen.
So people are just pumping that shit usually when they're working, so they don't die.
Yeah, and and I believe it runs automatically for a bit. Or that's like a gamification thing. They probably do need someone to man it 24/7. But yeah, it is a necessity when mining to have an airflow. That is unless you're a yokai, then you just don't give a fuck.
I don't mean to complain a lot about this game, but there's a couple things that, like, I wish were a little bit more, I guess. And one of them so far has been base enemy design seems a little generic.
A little what? You kind of cut out on my end.
Generic.
Oh yeah, that is a fair and valid complaint. And don't feel bad about complaining. In an LP, it's good to have 2 viewpoints of the game. I like the game a lot. Not a lot of people do. It's always the argument I see, but your opinions make it valid, and it makes it a more well-rounded experience. Case in point, time to get vomited on.
I just think it may be interesting to give them a little bit more, little bit more of a certain je ne sais quoi to make them a little bit more distinct, I suppose. Because right now they just look like naked zombie dudes, and there's a lot of them.
Yeah, it would do if they had like more mining equipment or something. Maybe like, I don't think they would have a helmet in this era of Japan, would they?
Maybe having like crystals or like ore kind of growing out of their skin just to give them different coloration and shape. Just something to make them a little more distinctive to the area.
That is something I have noticed in a lot more modern games. This game came out, what? Oh, fuck. I want to say, like, 2015, 2016? 2 years ago, and, like, the effort is there, but there's not quite enough color variation. But I've noticed now, in 2018, that there's a lot... People are going going all in on contrast, and it's kind of fucking cool, actually.
I think there's a much heavier pushing on having logic to an area, like logic to enemy, logic to things like that. So they want to make it feel like when you go to an area, it feels different than everywhere else, I guess.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And it also, the thing you fight or the thing you find belongs there.
It really does help that we're now reaching that era of hardware where we can do that. Because, like, man, I played Wild Arms 2 quite recently, and, you can really tell that they were super limited back in the day.
Well, especially RPGs where you'd fight the same enemy that would just change their fucking color.
Yeah, but I also remember, harkening back to stuff like Spyro, and I can't believe I'm saying this, Gex. Where like a lot of enemies were just kind of dropped in and didn't have a lot of variety. Like now,
hey kids, remember Gex?
They probably do remember Gex nowadays because Rattle LP or Chip Cheesem does a lot of extra light streams centered around Gex.
Oh,
but I digress. It is neat that we're getting to the point in video games where it is becoming photorealistic. Like, case in point, probably a example that's going to make people either groan or chuckle. When I played Resident Evil 7 for the first time on Halloween, that game looks fucking beautiful! Like, I sat there for a hot second and thought, this is a video game? What? Then I got to the second half of that game and then realized, oh yeah, they had to be Resident Evil.
It's definitely a video game.
Yep. I wonder... Go ahead.
I heard a conversation bringing up some interesting point in a video game where the trade-off of game interactivity versus graphical fidelity tends to kind of balance each other out. So, for example, a zone might look particularly detailed and nuanced and beautiful, but because of that, the player character can't interact with their surroundings a lot. Trade-off, you could have a surrounding where there's very little in the terms of detail and intricacies and things like that, but the player has more ability to interact with their surroundings a bit more. They can destroy structures, they can move things around, so like it's interesting that we're still kind of running into that with games modern. Some games, they've tried to implement more of the, hey, there's crazy details, but then you can interact with the world. But the trade-off is it has such a demanding process to even run functionally that half the times it causes the game to crash to interact with the detailed objects.
Yeah. Yakuza 0 is like the thing that first pops into my mind.
So, it's just hoping, when I always try to think, well, what's the next thing you can do in gaming? Because I don't think increasing graphical fidelity and things like that is really going to be anything dramatic anymore. It used to be. But nowadays, if you want a console to be affordable enough, you really can't do that much anymore.
Yeah, we really have plateaued in terms of graphical fidelity because, like, we're getting the hardware, but, like, the amount of returns is becoming... You're getting decreasing returns from putting all this effort into hardware.
Well, the thing is that I can, and I'm sure you can think about it, you can think of games from last console generation that look just as good as this console generation.
I actually can't because there was
You're not a console player.
Well, that and, like, last year I didn't play a lot of AAA games. Played a lot of indie games.
Fair.
That's where my milieu is, which is weird that I'm LPing Nioh right now. Like, Nioh is one of those few rare games where it's like AAA, but man, I find it really fun.
I'm just hoping to the point where they can just have, instead of trying to focus on the boosting necessarily the graphics card, they can keep it similar and smooth or more efficient. But how about just increasing the power of the processor to where it can run a million different objects or a million different characters on the screen at once independently without just melting?
I think
Or how about running water smoothly? How about that? That's a good
Water's
start.
been the fucking bane of PC designers for a while, so...
And we're not getting any closer to a solution either.
But, I remember... I think, like... there is an answer for what you want, kind of, in that there's... People have been, like, fucking praising Red Dead Redemption 2 to the heavens. Well, ow.
Well, people are kind of have boners for Rockstar, so...
And I've seen Red Dead, and it does look pretty good, but the trade-off is you can have high detail environments that are interactable and affect gameplay and all that good stuff. The only issue is that all that takes time.
And also, it's very hard to test bugs in an environment like that, too.
Yeah, let's talk about Fallout 76.
Yep. It's much easier to make a game that has a point A to point B with a beautiful set piece and surroundings, but you can't interact with shit, and will probably run great, for the most part. It's always the ones where it's like, oh, this is a big sandbox where everything's interactable, to where, like, that game could take 10 years to come out, and it would still be a buggy asshole.
Yeah. That's kind of the one complaint I hear often about people that tell me they don't like Nioh. They don't like the fact that it's point A to point B. They want it more like Dark Souls 1 and 2, where it's more open-ended, but I'm like sure, you're trading off freedom of freedom of exploration, but you're getting more interesting level design. Well, more interesting, challenging level design. I had to stop myself
out while you were in the shame cave. But I would argue that Dark Souls and Bloodborne, despite the freedom of general direction, it's the Metroidvania thing where it's still a path. Like, you can't just automatically make your way over to where the final boss is hanging out. Like, you have to follow a certain path, and the map just gets bigger because you've been to places before. But, like, legitimately, a lot of points, there's no point in going back to certain areas because that has nothing to do with progression. So even those games have a point A to B system. They just disguise it a lot better.
Yeah, I don't know. I personally feel like the disguising of that feels a little disingenuous to me.
I actually prefer that. I like the fact that they can get at least... I would say that it's never done for a negative reason, but it's the illusion of freedom that... I mean, because you're not necessarily 100% free in a game anyway, and if you are, the game probably runs like shit. So why not have a game that goes point A to B and fools enough people into feeling like they are doing it, but you are being kind of led in a direction. I mean, Hollow Knight, same deal. I mean, it opens up the map, but you're still being led down by certain paths.
I don't know. I enjoy games like that where you could cheat a path, but also it's interesting. It's hard to put my thoughts into words because I never thought I'd go into this argument today.
How dare you?
Oh fuck! I'm owned. Both in terms of arguments and in the video, because this fucking wheel.
Oh no! You're falling! We're falling!
Well, I will say though, like, your argument is entirely valid and in many ways right, but like, I don't know. It comes down to viewpoint of the experience, because there have been games that have been like disguised well, yet I always found it to be kind of weird. And there have been like linear experiences where I'm like, man, this sucks. I guess it's just
I prefer the illusion because you've also probably played games where they either make you think it's going to be a free roaming experience or you have some sort of concepts of options, but then when you realize that you can't go left to right, that you're on a fucking rail, and that's the worst.
Strider 2016. Love that game to death gameplay wise, but when I realized that it's not a Metroidvania at all, it's just hallways, I was like, that kind of sucks. I do gotta give Dark Souls 3 credit. Even though they designed it in kind of a scummy way, I appreciate the fact that they gave you means to take a different path of getting somewhere. Even though it involves a really fucking flaky jump off a tree's weird geometry. I like that. I like that the option is there. This level is kind of tricky though, just in that, if you're doing this for the first time, it is kind of brutal to go through the level and, have to figure out where all the stuff is. And this kind of follows the same issue in that, with the paralysis thing, in that you're probably not expecting to go into a status effect dungeon, and ergo don't have the resources to back you up.
Still feel kind of early for status effects dungeons, too.
5 episodes in. Poison is kind of a non-issue in my opinion. Like, in these games, when you see poison, you kind of go into a mode where you're just hyper careful and are more perceptive of your surroundings. So if it's poison, I don't mind. Paralysis is kind of more frustrating to me because if you make the mistake, you're fucking dead. Like, just gather your souls and go back to the checkpoint, buddy. We're done here. I'm trying to recall. There's gonna be another status effects dungeon. I want to say 5 or 6 updates in that I think is one of the funniest status effects dungeons in the game. Hopefully, we'll get there within the month. But as the LP cops have told me, it's a bit people are a bit skeptical.
Do we have some certain LPPI showing up with badges going, you guys are taking too long? And you're like, damn, one day from retirement.
Let's just say I may or may not have put an LP on hold for a while because my TV was hot shit. And then I ran this and then couldn't update it for a month. And then within that month of not updating this, I started La Mulana 2. I can see why people are skeptical. Don't gotta be verbal about it openly, though. That's how you get people hating your guts. Here's me trying to do the, there we go. Like, high stance, free hit is just a free stun on these dudes with the spear.
Wow, you destroyed him.
Yeah, because, as I mentioned, if you go into high stance and use the light attack, you do an overhead swing, and that collides perfectly with the fucking Oni's horns, causing them to go into hit stun. And when they go into hit stun, and when their stamina bar is empty, they always hit stun. So if you just break their horn, go into low or medium stance, and then just stun lock them, they're chumped. Like, for how aggro these guys are, they're really easy to fight if you know what to look out for. Like, burst mode, or living weapon gets them, a headshot gets them. Every weapon has a move that's an overhead that you could break their horns with. It's super easy, but you also gotta be really careful, because this game loves punishing hubris.
I noticed that with these kind of games, learning movesets is important. I mean, generally any game with combat, so I'm sure this one is no different. You just look and go, oh, well, I've seen that move about 1,000 times.
Oh yeah, fucking, on the note of movesets, you are entirely right, because, did you see that gif of Dark Souls 2 where somebody was, using a moveset from the Artorias sword, and they used the, spin attack to go low enough to avoid a sweeping move from a greatsword?
No, that sounds great, though.
That is, like, insane hitbox fuckery. I love it.
Oh, that's because if they have to give credit to From Software for anything, even if you don't like the games that much, their accuracy with hitboxes is pretty ludicrous.
Yeah, another developer that's really good with that is Lab Zero and Skullgirls. Whoo boy!
Well, yeah, fighting games, like, they measure that stuff like crazy. Like, honestly, that stuff goes above my head a bit, just because fighting games are so fast, I think I have a hard time telling frame data. But those people that do, whoo boy.
Well, it's easy to see because they did comparison data with, like, Capcom data, where it's, like, just general boxes. Meanwhile, Skullgirls is, like, what, 50 fucking rectangles to perfectly fit the model? That's insane!
Yeah.
Hitbox data is so... Hitbox data is the weirdest fucking world to go in, and it is so fascinating. Like, I remember seeing Smash data and they use orbs, and I was just like, dude, what?
See, to be honest, if there's one thing that, another thing that I really do appreciate a lot of times about Dark Souls, even though they sometimes even get it wrong too, or at least From Software when they make their stuff, is that I'm kind of tired of the boss, or enemy, that just physically being in contact with them, even when they're not attacking you, damages you.
I don't remember seeing that in a Souls game.
No, that's... Yeah, exactly. Because generally in most, like in a lot of different games, let's say Legend of Zelda.
Oh, contact damage, gotcha.
Contact damage, right. So if you just walk up and gently rub yourself against a non-attacking enemy, you'll get hit. I think by now, that's kind of stupid.
Well, you don't see that
unless the enemy, of course, is like a lava monster or a spike ball or something. But if you just walk to it like this guy walking down the street and you bump into him and go, ugh, it's like, come on.
I think that was a limitation of hardware nowadays, because, like, I think they wanted you to suspend disbelief for a second and imagine that you're being counterattacked. But nowadays, when we have such, like, high power systems nowadays, to where we can have fully realistic combat and not have to emulate infighting with contact damage, I think that's why we're not seeing that as much anymore.
Now, the one game that does kind of annoy me with that hitbox system that way, though, is Monster Hunter World. If there are some negatives about it, one of them is, like, an enemy does some sort of attack or starts doing an attack. Parts of them that did not count as a hitbox before are now hitboxes. And they don't even have to be the part that he's attacking with.
God, I know exactly what you're talking about. I want to say fucking Nair Gigante had that problem.
Well, like, you'd be, like, you know, standing up close to it, maybe, like, on its side or something like that, attacking it, and it starts its animation to do its attack, and its animation start causes damage, not the attack itself. And you know, you can predict if you can see the attack coming, but a lot of times if you're just starting the attack, well, you can't do anything about that.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about, and it sucks.
And especially with that game where there's such a high likelihood of knockdown and stun, it's really frustrating because you could be fighting something that's not even actively fighting you, and you'll get stunned by it, and you're like, this is stupid.
Man, I haven't played that game in a while, though. I feel like... I feel bad because I stopped just as I was doing arc-tempered stuff, or not arc-tempered, just regular tempered monsters, and I was just like, that was fun and all, but I'm starting to lose the hype. Like, the initial playthrough was great, but I'm the kind of guy that, if I'm going into the post-game, there better be new content behind it, because
Well, they do at least now. They have a lot of different DLCs there that they add, and the nice thing is they do DLC for free, so...
Yeah, that is nice, and I do have the weird raid boss, I think it's called, to go through.
There's the raid boss, and they also put Behemoth in there, but fighting Behemoth sucks.
There's Behemoth, and there's Lunastra?
Yeah, Lunastra. There's the big gold lady.
Yeah, there's that. That's the raid boss I was referencing.
She's a fun fight.
I'll have to give it a shot then. I think mainly I've been kind of disparaging by it because I have one very specific friend that spends a very specific point of the day every day asking me if I want a monster hunt, and that kind of being browbeat over that is a great way for me to not be interested in the game anymore, but also he does it at a time when I'm not available and then complains that I'm not available.
It's like when you're a DM of a role-playing game, isn't it? Okay, that's a very personal quip, but it's still funny.
So, let's talk about weird-ass bosses. You know those things we've been killing this whole time that generate the poison?
It's a centipede.
Yeah!
Oh, I like its head.
Yeah. Now you may be thinking, this is really weird. Why is this boss here? Why are we doing this? This feels like a filler episode. Would you believe me if I said they justify this boss with DLC?
Really? Why?
Yeah. I don't know.
Great Centipede, a very popular boss.
It was actually one of the early bosses of one of the campaigns of Muramasa. But yeah, Great Centipede. Here's the weird thing. If you know what you're doing, or if you have the right weapon, you can beat this boss in one living weapon cycle. I did that for my last 3 playthroughs. I have no idea what happened here. Like, usually
LP curse, mainly.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I'm not bad at video games, but like, man, I'm so used to one cycling this that when I got here, I'm like, okay, what am I supposed to do on this fight? Oh, right, the fucking fan. Okay, gotcha. Now what? I honestly...
That's how you are king of mistake style, of Sloth-Style.
Yeah, like, fucking, I never do anything right, but I still come out on top somehow. You may have noticed that when I was going through there, I was actively eating soul gems to cheat out another living weapon, but... boy, was that a bad place to fight him.
Wang bumblefucks his way through the Nioh world.
I mean, let's be real here, it's through every game. Like, I mentioned in the first part of this update that I was playing through God Hand, and oh boy, there are a lot of...
everyone bumblefucks through God Hand.
Yeah, but it feels even more so because I'll get through fights with like a pixel of health, I'm like, I should not have beaten that. Let's see if a third living weapon will do this.
No.
Come on. It's right there, you can do it.
I guess you should try to hit him, though. That'd be a good plan.
That's a tall order, Travis. I can't. I just can't.
Yeah, I noticed.
Oh, I think I know exactly why this fight is way longer than it took. Remember how I said elemental damage is very prominent in this game?
Yes.
Giant Centipede is an earth elemental enemy. My spear does earth damage.
Uh-huh.
That is the excuse I'll be sticking to today. I'm probably wrong, but whatever.
I mean, I feel like another part of that is just not hitting him.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. Like, there's no question there. Let's try... oh, okay. Guess I'm down here now. Also, man, you see that lazy Susaning there? Holy shit!
That lazy-ass tracking, man.
Like, man, I hate it when games do that. It's the worst.
The game is like, I'm going to hit you and you're going to like it.
No, sir. I do not like it. To be fair, though, actually fighting this boss was super interesting in that I finally get to learn it. And I think it's a fun fight. I like the concept of needing to manage the poison, and also you can bisect the boss and make him a lot easier to deal with. But this was a fucking joke of a fight. I was trash garbage at it.
And this, ladies and gentlemen, is how you fight the Great Centipede.
No, it's not.
Thank you so much for watching this LP where we try to show you the optimal way of solving all the problems of Nioh.
Yeah, let's go with that. We also get a unique helmet for this that I'm not gonna use.
Hashtag Way of the Sloth.
Mm-hmm. It's heavy armor, and just, you know, heavy armor in the Souls games is just so unsightly.
Listen, I like being just a walking piece of metal.
I don't. I'm the outfighter. I fucking love dodging and shit. Which is a shame because everybody in the thread tells me to use the fucking guard. It's good. But I've gone through four Souls games where dodging is king.
So his answer is no.
I mean, I believe them. I've seen the footage, but it's like fucking programmed in my goddamn DNA to dodge. So, I hear you. Your voices are not going unheard, but I just physically can't.
You're going unheard, but I'm not listening.
So, oh god. I want to say either the next update or the update after this is where we actually fight the Umibozu, but I don't remember. But we'll see where it goes, because honestly, I feel like the Umibozu level is one of the better levels in this game, probably one of my favorite levels. And when we get there, it'll be super cool. But I honestly don't remember if the next level is another cave or not. So, we'll see. See you folks next time. As I hope that there's not another cave.
Way through bumblefucks.
Good night, folks.